only 3 weeks remaining of the PGA Tour schedule. And then U.S. Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley is going to have some very difficult decisions to make. Cameron Young said it is a stated goal in 2025 that he wants to be on that team. Do you think at this point he has done enough, or do you think it's really going to come down to his postseason performance?
We're going to have Todd Lewis later on the show, a Boots on the Ground segment. I'm looking forward to hear what he has to say about that, having been there, knowing sort of the dynamics. No, I don't think he has done everything he needs to do up to this point. Very impressive victory, and you can lay out a very compelling case. The idea that he grew up in Westchester County, the fact that he won as an amateur, he won the New York State Open at Bethpage Black. It's obviously, he called it his favorite golf course in the world. If the crowd is going to get behind anyone, it's going to be Cameron Young. All of those things factor, and I don't think they're going to get behind anyone. But yeah, if they're going to get behind anyone, it's going to be Cameron Young. All of those are really good reasons, but I'm not 100% sure that he's done enough quite yet.
Why not?
I think it has more to do with the conversation we just had. And this is going to be a little counterintuitive, because I would also argue that, yes, Tommy Fleetwood probably has done enough to make the European team. And we just had a conversation about, is he the best player now? Not having won on the PGA Tour. But there is something to be said for the idea that we always compare playing in a Ryder Cup. Every match feels like you're trying to win on the PGA Tour in a major championship on a Sunday afternoon. That's the pressure that comes with you. And I would probably turn the question back on you or anyone else that wants to have this conversation. And how comfortable are you going to be coming down the stretch on Sunday afternoon? And it's Cameron Young that has to win that match to win the Ryder Cup for the United States, with Bethpage hanging over his head, with all of the things we know about him. I'm not going to say he's not going to compete. He could do what he ended up doing today and blow someone out. But the only litmus test we have now outside of the Junior Ryder Cup, which is something that the CBS broadcast wanted to get into, which I didn't quite understand. But the only thing we have to go on is the 2022 President's Cup, which he played on. He was a captain's pick on that team. He wasn't particularly great. He went 1-2-1. He lost his singles match to Sung Jae Im. I'm not sure he was very impressive in that as well. I just don't know how comfortable I would be in the situation. If I'm Keegan Bradley, I have to put myself in the seat where I'm watching him come down the stretch on Sunday with the cup on the line.
Give me Cam Young versus Tommy Fleetwood in the anchor match for Sunday singles. We can determine once and for all who the best player without a win is. He is an interesting case, I will say, because when you think back to 2023 when Zach Johnson was the captain, Cam Young was 9th in the U.S. team standings and actually got bypassed for a pick. He said that one really hurt, thought he had done enough to warrant a spot on that team. It makes you sort of wonder if at least 2 years ago, Cam Young was not part of the in crowd. And if that hurt him, that was sort of the defense that Keegan Bradley has as well. When he got bypassed, you would think, having been through the exact same experience himself, he might have a little bit of a soft spot for someone who might not be in sort of the quote unquote in crowd. He wanted to give, Cam Young did, the captain no choice but to take him this time around. It seems very unlikely, barring some sort of playoff surge, that he is going to be among the top 6 automatic qualifiers. However, I do think he has certainly give Keegan Bradley a lot to think about. But I think it overall, though, Rex, like if you look back at our podcast and our show after the Travelers Championship, this is why I thought it was so silly to crown Keegan Bradley after he won that signature event, of course, over your boy Tommy Fleetwood. Because at that point, there were still 3 months to go in the process. And claiming just because Keegan Bradley moved inside the top 10 in the world ranking, claiming just because Keegan Bradley now moved inside the top 10 in the U.S. team standings, just because he won a signature event, should not have automatically put him on that team and then in a position to be a playing captain. Because think about what has happened in those 3 months since then. Since then, Chris Goddard has arrived. He won the second strongest regular season event on the PGA Tour, the Genesis Scottish Open, followed that up with a 3rd place finish in his very first Open championship. Also had an opportunity to win at the 3M. Wyndham Clark, after bashing the locker at Oakmont, has certainly played better of late to at least get himself in the conversation if he can play well in the playoffs. And now you have Cam Young winning the Wyndham Championship, again after the close call in Canada, and another good finish at the U.S. Open. I think there's probably 10 players on that U.S. team who are all but locks, barring some sort of injury, barring their form completely falling off the face of the earth in the month of August. I would put 10 players on that team. And then you have a conversation where it's a Cam Young, it's a Chris Goddard, it's a Jordan Spieth, It's a Sam Burns. It's Keegan Bradley himself. Is Keegan Bradley that much of a difference maker that you have to put him on that team? I would argue no. And I think Chris Goddard, in addition to now a resurgent Cam Young, I think really makes the decision actually easier for Keegan Bradley to step away, be the captain, and let some of these other players sort of assume the playing role fully, full stop, and let Keegan Bradley be the captain.
Well, Keegan Bradley is 10th on the U.S. points list right now. So he's clearly one of the top. The numbers prove
but he's not in the top
6 Americans.
And he said only in the top 6.
But you're willing to give at least 4 of those people who aren't in the top 6 automatic spots on the team right now. And I would argue that Keegan should be among those 4 right now. We can probably make a different argument in 2 weeks from now, but right now he's 10th. And I've also made this argument, and I truly believe it, that it's really not going to come down to Keegan, at least not when he sits down in the team room with the players who do. Those 6 automatic qualifiers are going to be led by Scotty Scheffler. He's already locked up a spot. I truly believe they're going to walk in and tell him he's one of the top 12 Americans, that they need him on that team. What if he wants to be a playing captain or just a playing? It's up to him. But I think they're going to end up making the decision on him. And you're assuming that he's going to drop to 12th, 13th, 14th over the next 2 weeks. I can't imagine that happens.
It's certainly possible. I mean, he hasn't been better than 30th.
Anything is possible, but I don't think it's going to happen.
With Keegan Bradley, I mean, he's not followed up his success at the Travelers. I think he has to play
well. Who are you knocking out, I guess, would be my question. All right, so if Keegan is 10th right now, are you moving? Well,
I've got the top 9 secure, and I have Patrick Cantlay on that U.S. Ryder Cup team, which would then
why would you jump all the way to 14th, what Patrick Cantlay has done versus 10th, which based on what Keegan Bradley has done? Like, that makes no sense to me.
I think Patrick Cantlay has had a solid, if unspectacular season. He's certainly been fine in the signature events, and you look at what he has done in the team events in particular. I mean, he was the MVP of that squad in Rome. Him and Max Homa were the very best players on that team. Overall, his match play record is phenomenal. I think Patrick Cantlay is on that team. I don't see any way that he has left home, even if he does not have a victory in 2025. I
just don't know that I would kick Keegan off that team for right now. You're kicking Keegan off the team in place of Patrick Cantlay, who is not among the top 12 according to the metrics.
Yeah, so I would have Patrick Cantlay would be among my 10, and then I would fill out my team with a Chris Goddard, a Jordan Spieth, a Cam Young, a Sam Burns, players of that ilk, and leaving out Keegan Bradley. That's how I would form my U.S. team. Again, I think 2 of those spots are probably up for grabs as we get into the postseason, and whoever continues sort of the run of form that we've seen over the past couple of months, I think deserves those positions.
See, because I've already written off Keegan being on the team, and I guess a lot could change over the next 2 or 3 weeks by the time we get through Eastlake, and the selections are expected to be made in either direction. He could have 2 or 3 great weeks or 2 or 3 really bad weeks, but in my mind, he's already on the team because I feel like they probably needed to already make this decision because there's some logistic things that go into it that normally you wouldn't be dealing with under these circumstances. But the PGA of America, along with the European Tour, need to figure out how is this going to work fundamentally? How are you going to have a playing captain? So my guess is they've already started to move in that direction.
I certainly hope not. That's why you have the automatic qualifying positions, which are solidified after the BMJ. I certainly understand what you're saying in terms of logistics, making sure everything's squared away, the captain's agreement, so on and so forth, having various contingency plans. I totally get it, but there's a reason why you're supposed to wait till after the Tour Championship to make those picks. It still gives you plenty of time. You can still have a de facto team outing in Napa and get everybody sort of playing together, so you're not going to be rusty for the matches at Bethpage Black. I just feel like it would be a mistake if you were crowning him in June and then sort of hesitant to move off of that.